Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, The Activities of King Bharata, text 13 and 14. These are prose verses, so we'll just do the word for words. Itam, in this way. Drita Bhagavat Vrata, having accepted the vow to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Aineya Ajina Vasasa, with the dress of a deerskin. Anusavana, 3 times in a day. Abhisheka, by a bath. Ardra, wet. Kapisha, tawny. Kutila jata, of curling and matted hair. Kalapena, by masses. Cha, and. Virochamana, being very beautifully decorated. Surya Cha, by the Vedic hymns worshiping the expansion of Narayan within the sun. Bhagavantam, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hiranmayam, the Lord whose bodily hue is just like gold. Purusham, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ujjahane, when rising. Surya Mandale, the sun globe. Abhyupashtitan, worshiping. Eta, this. Uha, certainly. Uvacha, he recited. Translation: Maharaj Bharata appeared very beautiful. He had a wealth of curly hair on his head, which was wet from bathing 3 times daily. He dressed in a deerskin. He worshipped Lord Narayana, whose body was composed of golden effulgence and who resided within the sun. Maharaj Bharata worshipped Lord Narayana by chanting the hymns given in the Rig Veda, and he recited the following verse, as the sun rises. Purport: the predominating deity within the sun is Hiranmaya, Lord Narayana. He is worshipped by the Gayatri mantra, Om Bhur Bhuva Swa Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. He is also worshipped by other hymns mentioned in the Rig Veda. For instance, Jaya Sada Savitri Mandala Madhya Varti. When the sun, Lord Narayana, is situated and he has a within the sun, Lord Narayana is situated and he has a golden hue. Om Agana Chimadandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This history of Maharaj Bharata is very interesting and profound, because you would, knowing this history, wonder how someone from such a high platform as Maharaj Bharata could fall down into the animal species. So, yes, this puts a fear into any sober devotee. We want to be careful. We don't want to squander the opportunity we have. First of all, of having a human body, and secondly, to have the chance to swim in the flood of Lord Chaitanya's mercy. A flood that can take us back to Godhead in one lifetime. Whereas during the time of Maharaj Bharat, you see, it could take many births to go back to Godhead. So what's happening here is that Maharaj Bharata has left his rulership of the whole world. As I often point out, it's hard for us to imagine how one person can rule the whole world and everyone is benefited. Because what we see are puny Kali Yuga examples of government leaders who can barely control their own household, let us speak of a nation or the whole world. But we should not assume that such histories are mythological just because we can't do it and no one we know can do it. So Maharaj Bharat was the son of Rishabhadeva, the incarnation of Godhead, described earlier in the 5th canto. And he was the chief of the sons of Rishabhadeva. So everything is looking 5-star superlative. He's ruling the whole world, which is possible if you are in touch with the Paramatma, the super soul in the heart. Otherwise, how can an ordinary human being understand how to benefit not only all the human beings on the planet, but all species of life? You have to be empowered. And that was the case with Maharaj Bharata. Therefore, the planet in the Vedas has the name Bharatvarsha because of the exemplary government of Maharaj Bharata. So he has left home, left his rulership. Suddenly he leaves. He leaves his family, he leaves his wife, he leaves his throne, and now you hear about him being in the forest. You would think, how could he do that? He's got it all good going for him. Why walk away from that? But that is the Vedic system. Pancha Sorvam Vanam Virje. After you've done your dash in household life, according to the classic Vedic system, after you've done your dash, generally 25 years of family life, then by the time you're 50, half your lifespan, whether 50 or in other yugas much longer, then you and the wife retire to the forest. Or the man goes alone. In those times, these ancient Vedic times, the government would maintain forests for vanaprasthas to go live in once they retire from their family life. But as I often point out, try to do that today. Try to go into the Waitekeries or something and retire there, or with Albert Park or something. People would think you're mad. There are no facilities. So Maharaj Bharat, you're hearing about, he's in the forest, he's performing austerities, concluding his life. And you hear details like his hair is wet from bathing 3 times daily in the rivers, in the streams. He's dressed in a deer skin. And what is he doing? He's worshiping Lord Narayana, Surya Narayana. You see, the sun planet, like all planets, as described in the Shastra, is ruled by a personality. Just because we don't see such personalities and are not qualified to see them or meet them doesn't mean they're not there. So every planet is controlled by a jiva, a living entity, part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the case of the sun planet, you have Vivaswan, as you know from Bhagavad Gita. Vivaswan manave praha. Krishna says, I spoke this Bhagavad Gita millions of years ago to the chief executive of the sun planet, Vivaswan. So you might say, well, then where is Surya Narayan? Surya Narayan is he's Vishnu Tattva. He's an expansion of Godhead, and he's pervading the whole sun planet. Whereas, so to speak, Vivaswan's the front man. He's in the office. But behind him is Surya Narayan. So, when you hear about Vaishnavas worshiping the sun god, they're aiming at Surya Narayan, the incarnation, the expansion of Godhead. Even in Braj Leela, you read about Srimati Radharani in the morning worshiping, or at noon worshiping the sun god. Of course, in the spiritual world, the sun and the moon are there, but they're not material sun and moon. In Goloka Vrindavan, there's a sun, there's a moon, but they are there for the sake of pastimes, indicating changes in pastimes. Because in the spiritual world, there's no past, present, or future. Everything is the now. That's the real place, to be there now. To be in the now. You have to go back to Godhead. So Maharaj Bharat is worshiping Surya Narayan, chanting hymns given in the Rig Veda. So everything looks good. He was the competent ruler of the whole world. He's retired to the forest according to the classic Vedic system. I remember one devotee, I believe it was our Rasayatra Devi Dasi, who said to me, this Vedic system, you're supposed to retire from household life in your 50s, but that's just when you finally get along and things are going good. Then you're supposed to go to the forest and retire. What is this? After 30 years, 25 years of warfare. Then there's peace, and then you're supposed to walk away from it all. Anyway, Maharaj Bharat had untold opulence, untold power, untold family bliss, untold qualification, but he walked away from it. In fact, the Shastra gives a very graphic example of how dramatic he was in exiting from his royal and family life. He said he left it just as someone leaves the toilet after passing stool, just get out of here. Famous verse from the Shastra. Don't think twice about it, just do your business, go. So he's in the forest, as we said. Everything is looking great. He's going to wind up his life successfully. And then what happens? As he's doing his meditation by the river, he sees a deer pursued by a lion or a tiger or something. And the deer jumps across the stream and is so frightened that the deer, pregnant, gives birth. The deer dies out of fright, and then the child deer, born, falls into the stream. And so Bharat Maharaj goes and rescues the deer, the little newborn deer. And you know the history. He starts taking care of the little deer and becoming so attached, pouring his heart and soul into caring for the little deer. Perhaps you've seen persons who have pets and they pour their heart and soul into their little dog, a little cat. It's happening now even in India. And so that's like part of the family. The dog or the cat is part of the family. Sometimes the dog or cat sleeps in the bed with the pet owner. So Maharaj Bharat, of course, knows much better, but he's overwhelmed by mundane compassion. Why is the compassion mundane? Because how could he benefit a little deer spiritually? Not only did he act in such a sentimental way, trying to befriend the deer, make the deer his companion, but he started to let his spiritual practices slide in the name of caring for the deer. Yes, I know I'm letting my spiritual practices slide, but this little deer needs me. So you may wonder, how could this happen? Because he was on the platform of bhava, preliminary love of Krishna, the stage before praying. If he falls down, what's the hope for us? So he got totally absorbed in caring for the little deer, thinking about it night and day. Where's the little deer? How is my little deer? Fondling it, caring for it, carrying it. He let his spiritual practices go and justified it because I have to care for the deer. The deer is my everything. Again, it's mundane compassion because what could he actually do spiritually for a little deer? Compassion in terms of spiritual upliftment can be shown for human beings. But what was his program in just fondling and caring for the deer? After he had left his beautiful wife, his sons, the kingdom of the whole world, now this deer has become the focus of Maharaj Bharat's uncontrolled desires. Somehow or other, there was an uncontrolled desire in him that came all out upon the little deer. And so, as you know, Bharat Maharaj got so absorbed in thinking and caring for the deer that at the time of death, he was thinking of the deer as he gave up his body. Where's the little deer? So, according to the laws of nature, yam yam vapi smalam bhavam chajante kalevaram. Whatever your mind is absorbed in at the time of death, Krishna says, that will bring you to the suitable next body. So he got the body of a deer. But he had, even though in the body of a deer, he had the benediction of being able to remember his mistake, which you normally can't do that in an animal body. So he was a deer, and then he was very careful as a deer not to associate with other deer, do his own thing, and then give up that deer body and take birth as Jad Bharat, powerful Brahmana, born in a powerful Brahmana family. And in that lifetime as Jad Bharat, that was his last in the material world. So still you're wondering, how could Maharaj Bharat tumble from the platform of bhava? There are various explanations and angles given by the acharyas. Angle number one is that By the force of karma, this situation of the little deer was thrust upon him. That's by karma. But he chose not to act properly. He purposely threw away his spiritual practices gradually and focused everything on the deer. Purposely. It was not an accidental fall down. He did it in full consciousness. And therefore, as Prabhupada explains in the purports, if a devotee purposely throws away his or her spiritual practices for some mundane reason, Krishna may just punish you with an animal body in your next life, even though ordinarily anyone who does the slightest bhakti gets a human form of life in the next birth. Remember Prabhupada stating in Melbourne that if someone on Sankirtan, book distribution, just takes one of his books in their hands, from a book distributor, in their hands, and looks at it, very interesting, nice, but then gives it back. Sorry, not today. Just that slight appreciation is the beginning of Shraddha, faith, and it's enough, that slight appreciation. They didn't buy the book, they gave it back, but they showed some slight appreciation. That's enough to give them a human form of life in the next birth. So still you're thinking, how can Bart descend into the animal species? Because he purposely threw away his spiritual practices and lost it. Lost the plot, as we would say, purposely. So therefore he was punished with a deer body in the next life. So this deer situation, one angle, as we said, appeared due to the thrust of karma. But karma didn't doom Bharat to have to respond in that way. So the situation may arise due to your karma, but you have a choice how to respond to it. And he chose the wrong way. So by the force of past karma, the situation appeared. But he purposely let his spiritual practices go. He acted in an unauthorized way. He knew better. He was even justifying, how can I abandon this little deer? I know my spiritual practices are slipping, but for the sake of the little deer, my heart and soul, it's all right. You can study his rationalizations. They're very telling, very accurate for the way we operate. I can't chant my rounds because of this, because of that, and this happened and that happened. Just study the excuses given by Bharat Maharaj. Very eloquent. This little deer is so dependent on me. How could I be cruel and neglect this little deer, even though my spiritual practices have slipped away? It's all right. Another angle given by Jiva Goswami is that actually, and it's also given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, that for someone who's practicing bhakti properly, their karma is gone. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Ham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishami mashrita, just surrender to me, I'll take away your karma. So for someone properly established in bhakti, their karma is vanished. Or only the slight impacts of it are left. Just like you turn a spinning wheel with your hand and then stop turning it with your hand, stop pushing on it with your hand, the spinning wheel still turns on its own momentum, but it's going to stop. So it's that way with bhakti, that you establish yourself fully in full bhakti practice, your karma has disappeared. But there's just traces of it left. So sometimes our devotees wonder, why is it I'm chanting Hare Krishna and I'm besieged by these mental patterns? What's wrong? The chanting's not working. Those mental patterns are just remnants of karma. Just like the spinning wheel will turn on its own momentum before it fully stops. But it's no more karma is being supplied, so to speak, to the spinning wheel, but it's just going on past momentum, which will end. So similarly, if the devotee just chants Hare Krishna regularly, properly, does sadhana bhakti properly, those harassing mental patterns will disappear. But sometimes we're so impatient. I've been chanting for 5 whole years, and still. Chanting Hare Krishna, as I often explain, is a lifetime career. You can't hold a timetable up to Krishna. I've been chanting for 6 years, 10 months, and 5 days. Why are these imprints of karma still in my mind? Just like people say about ordinary romantic affairs. You can't hurry love. There's no timetable to it. It just happens of its own accord. Well, then, why can't you apply that mundane understanding to the effects of karma for a practicing devotee? Krishna has his own timetable. So Bharat Maharaj purposely, in the face of a karmic situation, threw away his spiritual practices. Now, Jiva Goswami, as you're pointing out, has a slightly different angle, because this is a multifaceted situation, as you'll hear more of if we have time. Jiva Goswami says that the imprints of karma for a practicing devotee are not strong enough to cause his downfall. What happened with Bharat Maharaj, Jiva Goswami says, he made an offense in his previous life. Ooh, it's bad enough dealing with what we do in this life. Now you're telling me Bharat Maharaj made an offense in his previous life, and for that reason, he's overpowered by a karmic situation. But then we look in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and we see the plot thickens. Things get more complex. Sanatana Goswami explains that persons like Bharat Maharaj, they're fully absorbed in love of Krishna. Yet out of compassion, persons like him are showing what not to do. You would say, well, shouldn't an exemplar in bhakti, shouldn't a great devotee in bhakti always show how to do things the right way? But Bharat Maharaj and persons like him are so compassionate, they'll say, we'll demonstrate the wrong way. Even though their heart is not like that, for the sake of conditioned souls, we'll show you what not to do. Learn from what we did. Don't do this. That's also part of the Vaishnava's compassion, believe it or not. So you would think, as I said, a great Vaishnava always shows the right path. Of course, if you're acting in the position of guru and acharya, you have to show the right path. But there are these extraordinary cases, and Bharat Maharaj was one. Remember, he's the son of Rishabdev, the incarnation of Godhead. So he's demonstrating what not to do. Another reason given by Sanatana Goswami, put your thinking caps on for this, is that persons like Bharat Maharaj are protecting the confidentiality of bhakti. They don't want you to see, if you're not qualified, what's really going on in terms of his internal ecstasies. So Bharat Maharaj takes birth as a deer. They say, you think, horrible, horrible, horrible. Before that, he dropped his spiritual practices. You say, oh, this is very bad. But what you don't see is his internal bhakti ecstasies. So he's throwing materialists off the trail, so to speak. Like criminals, when they want to evade the police dogs, they throw something on the trail that the dogs get bewildered by, because the dogs operate by smell. Or you can read in the media people trying to import illegal drugs into the New Zealand airport. They package the drugs in their luggage in such a way that the dogs can't smell it. Of course, the police have other devices. They have electronic devices, this or that or the other. So that's to throw the dogs off the trail. You may know, as you're exiting the airport from an international flight, they have these dogs that come up and sniff everyone's luggage. So the criminals, they try to throw the dogs off the trail. It's an idiomatic expression. Bewilder the scent of the dogs. So Bart Maharaj, persons like him on the platform of ecstatic love are throwing you off the trail. You're not qualified to understand bhakti, so think it's all suffering and leave us alone. We don't want to be disturbed by the atheists in our internal devotional ecstasies. So consider us ordinary persons falling into Maya. Yeah, that's the way we are. We would rather be unjustifiably disparaged, unjustifiably criticized. We'd rather that than be glorified. So, rather be criticized than be glorified? Yeah, let the people think we're low, we're trash. Yeah, more power to them. That's another reason given in Brihad Bhagavatamrita by Sanatana Goswami. And Sanatana Goswami further says that persons like, he gives the example, Bart Maharaj, demonstrating to fall down due to bad association. He associated wrongly with a little deer. Or Yudhisthira Maharaj, demonstrating gambling. Or Maharaj Nriga, remember him from Krishna Leela? He's demonstrating how you should never touch the property of a brahmana. So all these persons, these great personalities who seem to have problems, are doing this as a demonstration for the sake of others, including the famous example of Sobari Muni, who fell down from his yogic trance just by seeing two fish reproducing. He's another one, Sanatana Goswami says, who's showing you the example, what not to do. And just like Bart Maharaj, Sobari Muni says, everyone should learn by my example what not to do. So these personalities are very extraordinary. Their mercy is coming in a different way than we expect. So Bart Maharaj will take birth as a deer, but a deer who knows everything. So as a little deer, he avoided the association with other deer. As a little deer, he went back to the ashram, Pulaha ashram, where he, as Bart Maharaj, was doing his austerities. Now he returns in a deer body. And he gives up his little deer body and becomes the extraordinarily powerful Avaduta Jad Bharat. So hopefully you now have an expanded vision of the different angles to all these histories in Bhagavatam. Finally, what about Gajendra? Who was Gajendra in his past life? He was a Vaishnava king, Indradumna. How did he get an elephant's body? He was, again, like Bart Maharaj, in his Vanaprastha stage. He had retired from ruling. He had left his family. He's in the forest in devotional samadhi. And then what happens? Along comes Agastya Muni with his disciples. And Agastya Muni wants to be welcomed, as anyone would expect, no matter what your economic status. According to Vedic culture, you should welcome a guest. At least give a glass of water, at least give a straw mat to sit on. And if you can't do that, at least give some sweet words. But Indradumna Maharaj was in samadhi, but Agastya Muni felt offended. What is this? He doesn't even welcome me. I'm Agastya Muni. So he curses Indradyumna. Because you're so dull and dumb, better you take an elephant's body, which is so strong, but is very dull and dumb. And so that's how Gajendra the elephant came about. You say, how cruel is this? He was in samadhi, focused on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and look what happened to him. He became an elephant. Oh, this is really tough. But the curse was a blessing, because after one birth as an elephant, Gajendra, who was Indradyumna in the past life, was personally rescued by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, taken to Vaikuntha on the back of Garuda. So you say, okay, but that's great ending. But why did Gajendra, Indradyumna, have to go through a birth as an elephant and get caught by a crocodile? Why? Why didn't he just go back to Godhead? But you see, normally in other yugas, it would take many births to go back to Godhead. So Agastya Muni actually sped up the whole process of Indradyumna going back to Godhead. Just one birth as an elephant, and then gone. That was part of the curse by Agastya Muni. You'll become an elephant in your next birth, but you'll be liberated personally by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what do you think? Is this a raw deal or what? But you have to keep in mind what your advantage is. You can go back to Godhead in one lifetime in Kali Yuga because of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Whereas Indradyumna normally would have had to spend several lifetimes to go back to Godhead. But the whole process was accelerated by being cursed to be an elephant. Not only an elephant, but an elephant to be delivered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. And then what about the crocodile? I'm assuming you all know Gajendra Mokshana Leela, the pastime of Gajendra in the Bhagavatam. Gajendra the elephant was enjoying in the forest with his elephant family, and then he went to bathe in a river, and a crocodile in the river grabbed the leg of Gajendra and was pulling him into the river for a feast. And so the two struggled for 1,000 years, back and forth, back and forth. The crocodile would pull Gajendra deeper into the water. Gajendra would pull the crocodile back onto the land. They were going back and forth. But Gajendra was weakening because the crocodile's in the water. That's the crocodile's element. Whereas Gajendra's an elephant, a land creature. So although they went back and forth, each one pulling the other, gradually Gajendra was weakening. And in that weakened state, Gajendra finally calls out, whatever supreme controller is there, whatever memory Gajendra had of his previous life as a Vaishnava, remember, there must be a supreme controller. Please rescue me, whoever you are. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead came, extricated Gajendra from the grip of the crocodile, and with his disc, finished off the crocodile. As soon as the disc touched the crocodile, the disc of the Supreme Lord touched the crocodile turned into a beautiful Gandharva. What's going on here? In the crocodile's previous birth, it was a demigod, a Gandharva more particularly. Gandharvas are Upadevas, sub-demigods. So he was a Gandharva named Huhu, and he was in the river sporting with young girls. That goes on in the heavenly planets. And so he was playing around with the girls in the river, and he thought to pull the leg of one of the girls in the river. But actually, the sage Devala Rishi was in the water, and it was Devala Rishi's leg who got pulled. Uh-oh. Sounds like another curse coming. Yes, so Dave Larishi cursed him. You'll be a crocodile in your next life. And so Hoo became a crocodile in the next birth. Crocodiles like to pull on legs. But you say, what a raw deal. He was enjoying in the heavenly planets. He accidentally grabbed the leg of the sage. He thought he was going to pull the leg of the girls, normal business. What's going on here? So when the disc of the Supreme Lord terminated the crocodile, he transformed back into a Gandharva, beautiful Gandharva form. So how was this Hoo benefited? He was a Gandharva in the heavenly planets. They're very musical, expert in music and dance. Sometimes, even in this mundane world, middle planetary system, you see someone who's a very powerful musician, very expert in entertainment, musical performance. Could be remnants of a previous birth as a Gandharva. So normally, Gandharvas are such enjoyers, it would take millions of years for them to ever get to the proper spiritual standard. They're enjoying in the heavenly planets. But the mercy was, who became a crocodile who got the association of the Supreme Lord. And he went back after the Gajendra incident, who went back to the heavenly planets, finished off his life there, and went back to Godhead. Something that normally for a resident of the heavenly planets would take millions of years. The whole process was accelerated. So how do you decide what is good luck, bad luck? You have to look at the bhakti, see how the bhakti has been produced, how the bhakti manifests. Then you can judge. So we've been explaining the intricacies of the Bharat Maharaj situation. Yes, he was on the platform of bhava, the preliminary stage of love of Krishna. But he fell down to teach us a lesson, Sanatana Goswami says. And he's hiding within himself. Sanatana Goswami explains the glories of his ecstatic bhakti. He wants the materialists to think, just see, why should you perform bhakti when you could wind up like Bharat Maharaj in an animal body? Give up now. Just like when in Moshila Leela, when Krishna's appearance in this world comes to an end, his visible appearance in this world, and he's sitting under a tree in asana position with his heel up on his thigh, and a hunter sees the redness of the heel and mistakes the heel for a deer and fires an arrow into the heel, and then supposedly Krishna is finished by an arrow shot into the heel. So that gives the atheist a chance to say, just see, as we always said, an ordinary person. Of course, who dies from an arrow shot in the heel of the foot? But by that Moshila Leela, it gives the chance for non-devotees to verify their conclusions. Krishna died by being shot by a hunter. Meanwhile, what is Krishna doing? He can pull the curtains close on his Naralila on this planet and go to the next universe. So many things are happening at once. You never know unless you have the deep vision given by the acharyas. You get bewildered. So yes, Bharat Maharaj is an extraordinary personality, and he's teaching by his example what not to do. All right. Any questions? Yes.
In the course of performing some devotional service, the devotee might have to interact with the material energy, which may cause fall down, similar to Bharat Maharaj who interacted with the deer, becoming attached and fell down. So some devotees may choose to give up the service altogether
hard to generalize an answer because everyone's situation is different. Everyone has to know how much they can handle. If you're always thinking, and Srila Prabhupada explains this point in the history of Bharat Maharaj, if you're always thinking, this material situation or this material resource is Krishna's property, meant to be used for Krishna's pleasure, if you're always thinking like that, you won't be victimized. Okay? You always have to think, this is Krishna's property, this is Krishna's energy. This material situation is meant to be used for Krishna's pleasure. It's all about the focus of your consciousness. That'll determine what you do. Now, everything depends on the individual. I know one amusing situation happened in France. Prabhupada's servant personally told me this. His servant would sometimes cook for him, for Prabhupada. And that meant you had to go in the kitchen. And in the kitchen, it's variegated experience, meaning there are men there and there are lots of ladies. And so the servant of Prabhupada was a very charismatic young brahmachari. And this was France, Paris. So he had to go into the kitchen, loaded with nice French ladies, French single ladies. And here he is, Prabhupada's servant, charismatic, very expert. So he was feeling the pressure, the heat. He told me, these French girls with the French eyes and the ooh la la. So he went to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, I can't do it. I can't cook your lunch. All these French girls are in the kitchen. Too much. Can't handle it. I can't cook your lunch. And Prabhupada said, well then, I guess I shall not eat. The devotee got the point. Went back in the kitchen and focused. That's just one anecdote. It's not the only way to respond to such situations. Anything else? Yes.
Thank you very much for the class. You mentioned in Gajendra's story and Gajendra's story that
Speak louder.
you mentioned in Gajendra's story that Krishna has his own plan, and for a person in Gajendra's situation, things may seem difficult. How does one, like if they're put into difficulty, have faith in Krishna and his plan?
That's why we read Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam can protect you in the most crucial moments, most challenging situations. That's why we say every day read Srimad Bhagavatam. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Not that you should just wait around for a crisis to happen and then, okay, where's the Bhagavatam? You should fortify yourself every day. The daily vaccination of Bhagavatam. This vax we're not anti about. Yes. You're the only one there.
Thank you for class. I've been thinking about this, and it's a bit
But that's back to Godhead also. If you're always thinking how I can best serve Krishna according to Krishna's desire, that consciousness is back to Godhead. You understand? So the two are not contradictory. Let me serve Krishna for Krishna's pleasure. That attitude is back to Godhead. That's what all the gopis are thinking, especially those who are maidservants of Srimati Radharani. They're always thinking, how can we serve better? How can we serve Srimati Radharani better? She's our life and soul. They're even more focused on Radharani than Krishna. Then there are some gopis that are equally focused on Krishna and Radha. But they're all thinking about the pleasure of the beloved. That's back to Godhead. Yes. Yes, it'll end in Vaikuntha. You're smart to think, I want to end suffering. You want liberation, moksha kama, lusty for liberation. That'll take you at most to Vaikuntha. We don't criticize persons who want to stop suffering. You're smart if you realize that you can do that by engaging in bhakti. But gradually your desire should become purified. Then you can understand the mentality of someone like a Bharat Maharaj who says, let me seem to suffer just to demonstrate what not to do for the conditioned souls. They're playing their part for Krishna's pleasure. Yudhisthira, gambling, let me show what not to do, why we don't gamble. So he lost his wife in the gambling match. Bhakti is so powerful that even when performed unintentionally, you can still benefit. These prime bhakti activities are called Srup Siddha by Jiva Goswami. Anything that's directly for Krishna's pleasure, as described in Nectar of Devotion. Even just circumambulating the deity. You walk around the temple. This is a prime bhakti activity. Even if you do it unintentionally, you get benefit. So Jiva Goswami describes that an incident, there was a bird caught in the mouth, a hawk caught in the mouth of a dog. And while the bird is struggling in the mouth of the dog is circumambulating the temple outside. The bird dies. The bird goes to Vaikuntha because it died while circumambulating the temple. The bird had no intention, but still the fact is it was circumambulating the temple at the moment of death. So Jiva Goswami gives that example to show how powerful bhakti activities are, even when performed unintentionally. Now you may say, well, what happened to us? How can we have such problems and difficulties and mental impediments, emotional traumas, this, that, the other? Imprints from past karma. Why? If bhakti is so easy, look what happened to the bird. What about me? Now let me ask you, do you remember, most of you, for most of you, what it was like when you first came to the Association of Devotees. Every devotee looked so angelic. Every devotee looked so far beyond you. And then what happened as time went by? What happened? More than become familiar, what else? You start seeing all the warts of that devotee, that Mataji, that Prabhu. Could be your own partner. Once the romance wears off. Anyway, so Jiva Goswami explains the reason why you don't feel that exuberance and that bhakti can do anything mentality, the reason why things start to seem dry and familiar and so many impediments is because of offending devotees. Because remember, in the beginning, you thought, oh, these devotees, they're all so worshipable, they're all so perfect, I'm so low. Then after a while, Now bear in mind that Nectar Instruction says you do have to discriminate amongst the devotees. But we take that to a spot where the Shastra doesn't advise. We're not just discriminating between who's a brand new devotee and who's a very advanced devotee. We're becoming very judgmental in other ways, material ways. Explain more. Jiva Goswami explains that there's a list of 6 offenses to devotees. You know about offenses to the holy name. What about the offenses to devotees? You know about the seva aparads, the offenses to deity worship. But what about offending devotees? It's a very formidable list that makes you think thrice. What are the 6? To blaspheme a devotee. All right, you don't do that. To become angry at a devotee. Could be your own husband or wife. To harm a devotee. Don't do that. And what else? Anger, harm, blaspheme. And then, I'm missing one, but there are 2 that are very tough. Just think about it. I could be guilty of that. Not offering a devotee a proper welcome. And then not showing happiness upon meeting a devotee. Again, could be your own husband or wife. But I see you every day. But what are you going to do today to annoy me? Think about it. To apply these 6 offenses in terms of avoiding them, it's going to take some work. Give every devotee a proper welcome. That means when they come to your abode, and to show happiness on meeting any devotee, that's going to take some work. Especially that Prabhu, that Maharaj. No way I'm going to show my happiness meeting that one. It's a tough one. But Jiva Goswami says this is why you don't feel that initial exuberance anymore. Oh, bhakti, devotees. Oh, I just want to be in the association of devotees. Our Mukunda Mukha reminds me of that. Just always upbeat, enthusiastic. This community of devotees. I'm thinking, okay, how long is this going to last before he starts getting critical? No, he won't do that. But I see that with envy. Just look, he's always upbeat, seeing the bright side of everything. Oh, there's this She was coming to the loft in Wellington. She stays at the Bhakti Lounge in, she was coming to the loft in Auckland, but she's staying in the Bhakti Lounge in Wellington. One devotee from China, Maggie. Oh, every time I see her, oh, I'm so thankful. Oh, it's so wonderful. On and on and on she goes, just nonstop. I'm just so envious. Oh, in China we don't have these opportunities. I'm so grateful. I look upon such devotees with envy. So, what happened? When we first became devotees, every step was a dance, every word was a song. Oh, devotees, prasad, kirtan. Then what happened? We went through some ordeals, some misunderstandings, mistreatments. That's it. Watch out for those devotees. Watch your back. And yes, this is not to deny any mistakes devotees have made. This is not to deny mistreatments. But just like Bharat Maharaj, you may be confronting a karmic situation generated by your own karma, but how are you going to respond? That you have a perfect choice to make. So just think about this example Jiva Goswami gives of the bird achieving perfection in its last moments of life as the dog caught the bird in its mouth and the dog is circumambulating the temple. And then the bird dies and goes back to Vaikuntha. Even though the bird had no such intention, it did the right thing happened to him at the right moment. So that's the power of bhakti. Even you don't have the intention, still you get the credit. So then you would say, why am I struggling? Why am I not feeling the bliss that I did when I first encountered devotees? It's because of offenses. And then we're shocked to hear those list of offenses from the Skanda Purana as quoted by Jiva Goswami. We're shocked because ordinarily we think, I don't offend devotees. I haven't cursed any devotees. I haven't punched any devotees. That's what we think is offense. But then we look at the list and we say, yeah, I've been angry at devotees, yeah. Not giving sufficient welcome. Sure, I'm not giving a welcome to that guy. Not being happy upon encountering a Vaishnava. No. Well, I'm happy to encounter some of them, but not all of them. This list takes work. It takes a conscientious effort. So this is why Jiva Goswami says we don't feel that exuberance that we felt when we first joined the Association of Devotees. Anything else? Yes. Desire, an object of uncontrolled desire appeared by the force of his karma. But still, he could choose how to respond to that appearance of an object of uncontrolled desire. No, you have a choice. Just grab your japa beads. Who's stopping you from grabbing your japa beads, just finding a quiet spot and just Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna? Who's stopping you? Sometimes you just have to cry out to Krishna, begging for mercy. Who's stopping you? but we're too proud to beg. Just think, have you ever begged for something in your life? Haven't begged for anything in my life, and I'm not about to start now. But those situations require you to call out to Krishna, to beg for his mercy. Because Daivyesha Gunamaye Mamayadraya, this material energy, Krishna says, is practically impossible to overcome unless Mameva Prabhadyante, Mayametam Tarantite. Unless you do it my way, unless you call out to me, surrender to me, you won't win. So when situations arise that Maya is pressing you to the wall, the propaganda that the material energy will put in your consciousness is, it's not going to work. Chanting is not going to work. Reading the Bhagavatam is not going to work. You're finished. This is just too good for you to resist. Unless your intelligence is sharp by reading Bhagavatam, you'll be bewildered. Unless your intelligence is sharp by attentive chanting of Hare Krishna, you'll be bewildered. Those are the facts. So Bharat Maharaj let his sadhana slip and justified it, rationalized it. Of course, at a deeper level, he's showing, don't do like this, take it from me. All right, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.